So what is my COVID-19 pandemic chronology update for today, Thursday, 27 October 2022? Well, it's related to, in a previous video I mentioned I turned my ballot in early, and so following up on that, I have checked online, and for our ballots that we turn in King County at least, this is Washington State, we can go online and they have a track my ballot option, so I can check to see, like, I returned my ballot at a drop box, but that doesn't mean it's immediately counted. Somebody has to go and pick up the ballot. It has to be taken to the elections division at the, all this stuff, and counted and then updated online. So I checked, and my ballot has been counted as of today, and so it's nice. It's pandemic related because I turned my ballots in early, and there's like a sense of relief that comes with that because I can check online, and now it's, election day is November 8th and over a week away, and my ballot has already been counted. Who did I vote for? 100% write-in candidates. I kind of had fun with it. I put like some, like for a Shoreline position, I put like Katrina Young, who was a diver at, I think, both the 2016 and 2020 Summer Olympic Games. And then, I put Megan Dressel down for a position, elected position. I put myself down for a judge position. I put all my family members down for stuff. So these elected positions have responsibilities. And do I understand my parents, my grandparents, my sister, my brother-in-laws, aunt and uncle, step-aunt? Do I understand the work background enough to actually, is there a fit on this ballot? And there was for everybody. Plus some people like Megan Dressel and Molly Carlson, who's a Canadian diver who's kind of past her prime in terms of competition experience, and was like, well, why don't you come move to Washington State? Canada's not that far from Washington State, after all. They are our borders, our neighbor to our north, the northern border of the state, currently anyway. So that's my update. And then I guess people kind of wanted a general life update. General life update is like thinking through, I mentioned it's tangentially related to my pandemic pit crew writing on Wikipedia, in the most affected group in the international competition scene, and the closely second most affected group. So this is for aquatic sports. For aquatic sports currently, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been kind of agreed upon it's junior swimmers. However, once enough junior swimmers recover, the most affected group becomes the second most affected group because they don't have the same numbers that the junior competitors do on the international scene. And so that's people ages 25 and older who are trying to make their international debut, which in today's world, it didn't used to be so rare. It is extremely rare these days, at least on like the global level. One of the most well-known examples of that is Natalie Hines, who debuted internationally at the Olympic Games when she was 27 years old. And there's kind of a perception about if one's going to debut at the Olympic Games, there's a bit of a international debut at the Olympic Games is kind of like what the Olympic Games desires, versus some people, like it's pretty common with Americans to have, a few junior competitions under the belt, maybe a world championships or 2 or 3 or 4, and then they go to the first Olympic Games kind of thing, and then they call it their Olympic debut, but they've really been on the international competition scene for over a decade kind of thing, or a decade. Why have I had an international debut? No. I had a multi-nation debut in water polo when I was 17 years old. It does not count as international because for a competition to be international, there actually is a definition, and it's 5 or more countries. And it was a bunch of West Coast United States of America water polo teams and 1 team from Canada. So while we like to call it international because we had that Canada representation, it was not the actual definition of international as in 5 or more countries. It was multinational because 2 multinational in a sporting sense is 2 or more. So in that sense we had 2 countries, but it didn't count towards international. But we were like, but we've competed with Canada, so we know we can compete against at least one other country, kind of thing. So in that sense, it was a healthy, like, this is a first taste of what it might feel like to be on an international competition level, which I was not. But it's still technically international for like the vernacular social sense of the word. However, in the sporting definition of 5 or more countries, that it was not. So like the Bolivarian Games is an example of an international competition, regional, so like in South America, multiple countries, and I think it's 5 or more countries, but that one counts as an international competition. But if it was just, for example, like Bolivia, then in Bolivia with maybe Venezuela, then it would be multinational and international in the social sense, but not international in the 5 or more countries definition. So yeah, so I have not made an international debut, and so Natalie Hines kind of comes up when if people are like, well, who's inspired you? Who do you want to be like as a swimmer? I'm like, well, technically I kind of only have Natalie Hines. Like, right? Dara Torres, people are like, well, you're 30. They say that to me, you're 30, so you must be inspired by Dara Torres. And it's like, Dara Torres made her first Olympic team when she was like 17 years old. She's entirely irrelevant, so 100% not relevant for my case of getting my first competition under the belt, like 30-year-old or later, right? Natalie Hines falls into the category of the second most affected group during the COVID-19 pandemic of 25 years old or older in very first international competition. Again, international competition is 5 or more countries competing. She's very unique in that sense. And as more juniors make it into their first competition, there is a changing dynamic of now she is the most affected type, right? People, if I were to want to compete in my first international competition, we become the most affected group. And it's the most, in addition to being most affected, unlike juniors, it is, in my lifetime, the most neglected group in all of aquatic sports, because governing bodies, be it international, continental, or national, do not put resources into developing and bringing back people that its own national team swimmers have forced out with sabotage tactics, right? Like, I beat somebody who wanted to compete in Division I NCAA championships, and I only trained 4.5 hours a week maximum, and only during the summer, right? And I beat her, and she's the one who went on. I was like, well, if we put resources into someone like me, how much faster would I go than that Division I NCAA swimmer, all right? So it's a way of saying, when juniors are setting world records, and there's a real physical difference between physical abilities as a junior and a senior, which is entirely why junior competitions exist, it means the world records are slow. Any world record, open to any age, set by a junior is slow because the person is not physically developed. So there's like the standard social understanding of, so what would it look like if true talent were actually brought into the sport of swimming? So 25 plus international debuts, these people who were naturally talented but skipped over because people like to focus on children, excessively so, and very inappropriately so. That's the extent we're looking at these days. I think the socially accepted is like the 50-meter freestyle, for example, would be at least 2.50 seconds faster, at least 2.5 seconds faster, if seniors were, so like people 25 years of age or older, international debuting. If a world record in a sprint freestyle event can be set by a junior, if it's 100, it would be about 5 seconds faster from a truly resource enriched as opposed to deficient and depleted, which has happened from the neglect of people like me and Natalie Hines by institutions like the International Olympic Committee and FINA. Their slow times, world records in swimming, are extraordinarily slow. And there are people who've gone faster who are like me, or Natalie Hines, and they just do it in private, and they're like, you know, why we don't compete in international competitions is people are going to be like, you cheated. And it's like, no, they didn't cheat. They're adults. The juvenile response is immediately saying anybody faster than oneself is, they cheated. the catch about having someone who made a first international team about 17 and can't, when they were 17 and can't grow up, and chooses not to grow up, is they stick around for a decade or two and don't ever mature, and then the entire sport suffers from it. Times are slow. You know, the women should be going at least a 59 by now in the 100-meter long course breaststroke. If mature, resources were put into mature and natural talent and like fostering that natural talent, and including the entire global competition scene, all people, which swimming does not. Swimming as a sport would be much, much faster. Like, I would consider 2.5 seconds faster than the current world record, or world records in 50s faster. But that's a minimum, right? It's 2.5 seconds or more. It could be, for all we know, 5-10 seconds faster. The governing bodies just don't care. That's just the reality of the situation. They want to keep it focused about juvenile bodies, juvenile physiques, and juvenile mental capacities, and not fostering the development of mature swimmers and actually seeing what a fully developed body can do. That'd be full physique and full mental capacities, which full adult capacities come in about when somebody's 25 years old and older. So the youngest age for a truly fast time, male or female, is 25 years of age. So youngest. So it's interesting. Natalie Hines is like, if there's somebody I have to be inspired by her, it's only Natalie Hines in my field of view right now, because, well, Dara Torres is completely irrelevant. She swam as a junior. I'm not a junior. I'm 30 years old, so people tell me. So that kind of thing is it's interesting in writing about things. It's far more impressive in my perspective, and socially there's kind of a bit of, the juvenile pipeline for juniors and stuff is, well, way excessive these days. Maybe one day they'll bring back kind of a standard for excellence, but currently that does not really exist in the global swimming scene. Competition scene, anyway. Like the public competition scene. Or private too, for that matter. Like exclusive club leagues and that kind of thing. But that's my updates for today, Thursday, 27 October 2022. With you.